Hey there fellow YouTubers, this is Anthony Home Guitar Mods. In this week's video, we're going to be doing a review over the Joyo Power Supply 2, the JP-02. Let's get started. Alright, so this is the Joyo Power Supply 2. You see that it claims to have 10 isolated outputs, an isolated short circuit / overcurrent protection, powers for 9 volts, 12 volts, or 18 volt pedal. I think they mean pedals. Includes cable, includes quite a few cables actually, and a bright blue LED for pedal board lighting and short circuit indicate. Obviously this is made in China. The English is so-so, but overall this is a great product. The short and sweet before we get deep in the review, if you just want to be done here, this is a great power supply. It's got clean power. It is not an isolated power supply like it claims. Don't let anybody tell you it's an isolated power supply. If you have a daisy chain currently and you're trying to get rid of noise from, say, some digital pedals that are on a daisy chain, this is a glorified daisy chain that has regulated outputs, meaning each output has its own voltage regulator with filtering, so it is cleaner than a one spot's going to be, but this is not an isolated power supply. This will not compare to a Voodoo Lab or a real isolated power supply in the sense that every output will have its own power. That's the short and sweet. Now let's dig into it. Inside we have our manual, which is actually written really well. The English is pretty good in here, and I actually found it helpful. There's some foam. We have our power supply and some cables, and then the included wall wart. Now, you heard me say this is not an isolated power supply. It claims to be, but it is not. What is an isolated power supply? Voodoo Lab is an isolated power supply. I'm just using that for my example. That actually has a transformer built in. You use an amplifier-style power cable, and that power transfer actually splits a separate positive and negative feed for every output, meaning each one is isolated. Each one is like having its own power supply plugged in. This has one power supply, one plug, that gets distributed between all of these using voltage regulators and some filtering to help filter out the sound. But each of these outputs is all tied together with a common ground, so they are not truly isolated. So if you're looking for an isolated power supply to clean some pedals, this will not do the trick. Now, if you've got a one spot and your pedals work really well on a daisy chain, but you're looking for a little more power options or maybe some cleaner power, this will do the trick. Each one of these outputs is regulated, is what I would say, not isolated, but regulated with a voltage regulator. You have an 18 volt power supply that brings power in, and then each output is dropped down to either 9 volts, 12 volts, or 18. You also have some cool stuff in here to help filter that power, whereas something like your one spot or your pedal, your Godlike, is just going to rely upon the filtering just in the power supply itself, in the wall wart. On here we have 10 outputs. Outputs 1 through 7 are 9 volts at 100 milliamps. Output 8 is 9 volts at 500 milliamps, and then our DC outputs for 12 and 18 volts are both 100 milliamps each. We have a row of blue LEDs with one switch to turn them all on. They're either all on or all off, whether something's plugged in or not, and they will flash supposedly to indicate if you're drawing too much power. It comes with 10 of these straight to angled power cables, as well as 2 reverse polarity cables. There is no indicator on this cable to tell you that it is a reverse polarity cord. So I would suggest putting a little piece of tape on here or something to let you know. It does not come with any other style adapters. It just comes with your standard size plugs that's on pretty much any effect now. So it's a great power supply. It's super clean. It's small. This is compared to a standard size MXR style stomp box. Super small, super thin, a little longer than a regular pedal, but it'll fit on your board a little easier than say your great big regulated power supplies, because they have that transformer inside them, so they need to be larger. The overall build quality, man, this thing's built like a tank, I feel. The wall wart, it feels like every other plug you can buy. All the little cables seem to be well done. I don't see anything goofy there. It came well packaged, and it provides clean power. This, compared to my one spot, had cleaner power. My one spot already, I feel, is pretty darn silent, unless you jack the volume crazy loud in your amplifier. Switching over to this, I did notice a drop in some hiss and some noise. Again, nothing that seems audible except for at insane volume levels, but if you're playing super loud, that might matter to you. To me, what was the best part was having the 12 and 18 volt options for running my full tone. If you've got some higher voltage pedals, the ability to do 8, 12, or 18, 9, 12, or 18 actually made a huge tonal difference on the pedals, so that was a lot of fun. Other than that, it's a power supply. You plug it in, plug all your stuff, all your pedals will turn on. Overall, I think it's a great power supply. I'm sending it back, but only because I need an isolated power supply. I've got some Line 6 tone core pedals, like the Echo Park and the Space Chorus, and they make a ton of noise. And if you're looking for this, for that style pedal to clean up your digital pedals that make noise in a daisy chain, it's going to make noise with this power supply. Overall, this is just a glorified daisy chain. It's regulated, it has cleaner power, but it's still just a daisy chain. So if you're looking for something to clean up some of your digital pedals that don't work in a daisy chain, it's not going to work with a Joyo. If you have clean power now and you're just looking for a little better option, looking for some higher voltage options, and you're looking at this or the DC brick made by MXR, I would say definitely go for this guy. More outputs. I think it's a sleeker container. You've got 12 volt and 18 volt options, and lots of headroom in the milliamps to pedal all your power all your pedals. If you're looking for something, as I was, with isolated power outputs, this is not going to do it for you. You're going to need to spend a little more money and get something that's actually an isolated power supply with a transformer built in that'll give you the options you need. Well, this is Anthony Home Guitar Mods. Feel free to leave your comments below, any questions below. I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can. Also, stick around. We've got quite a few pedal reviews coming up. This will be one of them, as well as a few others. Some mod videos and guitar stuff. There's lots of cool stuff on this channel. So if you're new to this channel, please stick around. I'd love to have you. And again, I'll get back to you with any questions or comments as quickly as possible.